Indra had only just come into existence, as all things must come into existence, for though the eternal core of the multiverse is constant and eternal shaping and twisting and turning and reforming it, like any other being, have their beginnings, have their emergence. And so, as I say, Indra had
emerged into existence, had gained his consciousness, had attained to personhood, to a state of being. And barely had he attained to a state of being, than he heard the plaintive cries of the living upon earth. He heard the cries of the animals, of the birds, of the dying fish. He heard the wail of plants, of trees, of living beings crying out that they were being deprived of the one thing that most centrally gave them life. And when Indra looked down upon the earth, he saw that although India was normally a land that was green and vibrant and flourishing, filled with jungles and tropical plants and climes and 1,000,001 creatures, now it was arid, sterile, drying up, turning into a desert like the Sahara. It was so barren. Where there had been jungles, there were now but dead sticks of wood. Where there had been teeming hordes of animal life, now there were bleached skeletons in the sun. And the cause of this became apparent to Indra even as he looked down upon the planet. For he saw that where those great rivers that had once crissed and crossed the whole of India, bringing life wherever their water flowed, now there were dried up riverbeds, no water flowing in them whatsoever. And he followed the course of those riverbeds back to their origin, to their roots. And where there should be the springs and the melting mountain waters and the other sources of fresh water giving life to the land, now there were fortresses, 99 fortresses, Indra counted, like poisonous beads upon some evil necklace about the land. And these fortresses were more like dams than they were fortresses, blocking the flow of water, stifling it up, damming it up so whatever water there was at the root could not flow down through the riverbed, bringing life to plants and life to animals as it went. Well, Indra looked about the land, looked for the source. Of these problems, looked for the cause of all that was wrong in the world. And he soon saw the mighty, slithering, scaled form of Vritra, the Asura, the demon, the fiend that brings drought into the world, a great serpentine form with an enormous mouth filled with 1,000 fangs. This dragon beast, this serpent monster that had curled itself around the land of India, directing its minions, its servants, its slaves to build up these fortresses, blocking and damming the very flow of the water of life, so that it should hoard life to itself and deny it to all others, and bring suffering and misery and despair and death in its wake. Indra knew he had to do something. He had to vanquish this beast. But he also knew that he was but new sprung into the world, fresh to existence, at least fresh in the time scale of gods. And so he sought sustenance. He went to the house, to the palace of Tavastri, blacksmith to the gods, a house with massive forges the size of volcanoes, belching out heat and intensity, where not only Tvashri himself but his legion of followers could shape and form metals to make swords and spears and plowshares, to make knives and bowls and jewellery, to make all manner of metalcraft, churned out for gods and for other beings in the world alike.
And as is the case so very often, those who are masters of the art of metalcraft, of blacksmithing, so often are great brewers as well. And in the house of Devastri, that wondrous potion, the Soma, was kept brewing and perfected. And whereas all Soma is wondrous, the Soma of Devastri was beyond compare. And when Indra entered the house of Devastri, Devastri welcomed him with open arms, recognizing a new deva, a new god in the world, and said, you are newborn, you are new come to us. We must shower upon you gifts. What would you like? Would you like thunderbolts and lightning to rain down upon your enemies? And Indra said, yes, I would love thunderbolts to rain down upon my enemies. Then sit you down, whilst I get to work and make them as you watch. And you are my guest as you sit and you watch. You must drink, you must eat. And so Devastri brought out the great barrels, the great cauldrons of Soma, and offered his new guest a cup that he could sit and drink and drink and drink and fill his cup again and again, as much as he might want, with the wondrous Soma. And as that potion, that liquid, filled Indra's body, filled every atom of his being, it charged him with power, with might, with strength, such that after what was a great long time for the beings of the earth, but a short time for those in the heavenly realms, the lightning bolts were ready. And gifted to Indra, he had taken his deep fill of Soma and was filled with a might ready to go down to earth and do battle with that great monstrous dragon that choked off the rivers of the earth. And down and down and down he went until his feet touched upon the land, and there he stormed across the land until he came face to scaly face with that great serpentine beast. And between him and Vritra, they fought and they clawed and they tore and they ripped at each other. They beat and they battered. Lightning bolts flashed hither and yon as the two of them struggled upon the earth. And the dragon, rising up, rearing up, stretching its great wings, took Indra up into the sky, knotting its great serpentine tail around him, tearing at him with fangs, tearing at him with claws, stinging at him with a great barb on the end of its tail. And Indra fought back and fought back and fought back, and at length struck a deadly blow into the very scaly heart of the dragon. And it let go of Indra, roaring in pain, grasping at the bleeding wound in its chest. And it fell and it fell and it fell and crashed to earth with a terrible roar and a thunder. The force of it landing destroyed half of the fortresses that its servants had built up, the body of the beast crushing them to powder, and the vibrations, the earthquakes set rippling across the land by the force of his impact destroyed the remaining fortresses that were damming the great rivers of India. And so, as the dams broke, the rivers, from their sources, their springs, their melting mountain snows, were able to run back down the dried up riverbeds, bringing freshness to the earth. And Indra danced up a wondrous dance, even though he was in screaming pain, for the fight with the dragon had shattered his jawbone and shattered the top of his jawbone, both upper and lower. And for all of the pain and the tears rolling down his face, still he was joyed to have brought life back to the earth. And he threw up one of his lightning bolts into the sky, and it split the sky asunder, and the clouds began to rain and rain and rain. And not only were the waters of the earth able to flow again, but the rivers were rapidly refilled by the rain pouring down from the skies. And all of the creatures of the earth that had survived the drought, some of them only barely just, were able to sing and dance in the rain, in the beautiful rain. Were able to drink from the rivers and from the lakes and from the pools, were able to refresh themselves and restore themselves to life. And the green and the growing things of the earth put their shoots and their leaves back out into the sunshine and into the rain, and India became the green and glorious country that it has remained from that day through to this. Thank you.